All right, we're live now. Let me go in here and make sure that we're okay. Let's see. Early? No, we got some people in.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me just make sure. If you guys can hear us, somebody let me know. Let's see. There we go. Got 18 people in the house already. All right, we're live now. Yeah, we got audio. We're good. All right, we got a whole bunch of people in here. Let me just give a shout out to my brother, Michael Van Patten, who has a birthday as of 1 minute ago. So it's good to see you. Let me say hello, Pauline Clulo. She says, so love you, Rick. Kalina Lux, Aline, my dear friend from Stavanger, Norway. Angie Hansen, Tony Woods, Morgan Lee, my divine consorts. Sonia Julie, Heather Houston, Dawn Ann Chase, good to see you. What's up? And hey, Anselm Hills is here. Good to see you, my brother. One of my old Facebook connections. All right. Allison Clausen, Amy Sunshine. I can't keep going. They're coming in too fast. They're coming in real fast. All right.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, let me roll the show out. Let me get this set up so we can, so I can see the comments, just in case there's anything we need to address. All right. I've got some new names here in the house. My name's Todd Medina. This is the SoulG Network. This is our primary show, which is called SoulSpeaks 5D. It's a conversation with, and today it's Rick Jewers. So many people know Rick. Rick is, he's the way shower's way shower, and he's humble. He's modest. He's doing the work, and that's all there is to it. And I just want to say on behalf of everybody, Rick, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for hitting me up a couple hours ago. And thank you for your service to humanity, because it's been very important, and many, many people have gained from the transmissions that you put out. So thank you. It's an honor to have you here, brother.
Well, you're quite welcome, Todd, and thank you so much. The service you're providing, we spoke about, a little bit ago, but I'd like to save it for the show. And, we're getting it out on the streets. You're getting more viewers all the time, and, more are awakening. So it's an amazing job what you're doing too, brother. And, everyone else, it's just totally awesome. We're seeing it happen.
Yeah, it's happening, right? I think a lot of people, Rick Jewers, for a lot of people, is, he's such a light for everybody. At the same time, I think, that human side of it is everybody wants to know, where did he come from? How did this all happen? How did he get into this thing? Did you have an awakening moment, or have you been on this path the whole time?
Well, no, indeed. I did have a very abrupt awakening. That happened perhaps, let's see, I'm around 54 years old now. So that happened around 49 years of age. And also, that was a very important age on so many levels. But again, it was all preordained that I had to go experiences up until that time. But very interestingly, just at that time, when I was abruptly awakened, I was downloaded with so much information because it was time, and it was very extensive what was happening. And during that transition, you're going from a human, with the veil completely down, to an awakened divine being in such a short time. So it was very abrupt, very intense. And, when I reflect back on it, really, even though it, one of the things at the time was overcoming fear, that was there with it. But when I look back at it now, it was just such a beautiful, amazing thing that had happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went through a lot of the traumas, like a lot of these light workers did to wake you up, is what you're saying, basically, right? Went through an intense time.
That as well. Let's say that, I was put in so many different experiences very quickly, to get informed and knowledgeable about them to assist others with what was coming. So many things were divinely pre-orchestrated for me to very quickly enter in these experiences, garner all of the knowledge, to, let's say, analyze the dynamics of the energy involved as well, and to, let's let's also say, to be able to understand the dynamics of energy, then you can master the energy.
Yeah.
So very complex and very important, and everything very quickly.
Wow. So let me ask you this: do you? I mean, has your journey been one of galactic communion or communication? You seem to be very very much in touch with Mother Earth. Where did that come from? Did it come from the galactic? Did it come from the organic?
I'm searching for a good, I like to say all of the above, because everything is connected. Part of my experiences have been galactic. Essentially, everything that can be imagined here on the planet. Partially, I've had experience into it. If not, I've been given all the information on it. So yeah, it's very amazing, and I always come out with anyone that has a profound or amazing experience. It is indeed true. It is real.
Yeah.
And so that's great. I don't know if I answered your question again.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you answered it. Now you were telling me, because I asked you offline, and probably everybody wants to know that I said, what is that room you're in? And you were telling me that you're in a caravan, you're in a mobile home, basically, on four wheels, driving down the road. You do a lot of grid work. You were talking about going up into the mountains. I know you're from Nova Scotia, and you're now on the other coast. So have you spent a lot of time doing that?
Yeah. When I was awakened, as I said several years ago, at I guess 49, but perhaps a year before that, yeah, I was introduced to energy work, and it has grown and become very complex. As you do so much and you keep open, then you're given the understanding of higher levels yet. And, it just progressed that way, Todd. And, it's some people that follow me, we do the exercises. They are quite informed on what it entails. And it is very complex when you start understanding at higher levels how you are able to be a part of the energy stream and actually change reality here.
Yeah.
I said that easy, but it is a transition, and it's a challenge to get there. And, for those that are, let's say, nominated to do it in one way or another, well, there is a process they must go through.
Yeah, I think a great example of that, because it is all the same energy, and what you said about being able to change the reality is reality. That's our natural nature, and I think a great example is when I was talking to you earlier, and you pointed to the curtain behind you, and you said, "Can you see the sunlight?" And you guys have got all that fire around you, and the exercise that you just took us through over the last 2 or 3 days. You see the effects of these things. I know you've seen them for a while. How powerful is a group of people putting their energy into, say, bringing rain or creating change in your experience? And really, how long have you been doing that? How long have you been pulling people together to make a change?
Again, it's been an ongoing thing. It's been a sort of, let's say, up to a certain point, I was sort of oblivious to what was happening. And after that, again, You know, several years now, Todd. Several
Yeah.
years. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead. I forgot part of your question.
That's okay. I have a tendency to answer ask two at one time. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this. One of the things I love about your stuff is that you don't just take the higher information. You also bring it down to the organic or to the human level about what's happening in the world. A lot of light workers circles talk about, don't look at that. That's not happening. Just stick with what's going on up here. But you bring both of them together. On that note, what do you see happening right now? There's a lot of stuff going on collectively. We can't trust everything in the media, obviously, but there seems to be a parallel happening on the world stage with the internal growth that we're having within ourselves. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, indeed. And, sometimes I tend to ramble. Yeah, it is happening. Let's, where to begin? Let's see.
And ramble as much as you want to, Rick.
Everyone's familiar with disclosure, and, it is happening. And the interesting developments with that is like you take the alternative news, and these sources, these were first ridiculed, let's say, only 7 years ago. Many would not look at it. They're thinking it's satire and imagination and, people just putting things out there. So, it was ridiculed and laughed at. But if you look at that time several years ago and you look at today, let's say with Clinton, Hillary and everything that's been happening with Julian Assange, what Edward Snowden revealed, even what, some prominent figures of government that are retired or detached, the evidence and the documentation they're putting out, and let us not forget the Vatican and everything that went on there and how that's imploding. And what you're seeing now is the mainstream media have no choice but to carry this real truth, what is happening. And this is also indicative of the higher vibration we have right now. And it's also indicative of how quickly we are moving forward with this ascension, and we're changing the whole world here. So
Yeah.
very excellent. We're in the most amazing times that ever now. It's just so magical and beautiful and unbelievable.
I agree with you. The human is the hero. I agree with you. Now, there seems to be a very obvious, and as the days go on, an obvious reciprocation from what we can't see, from the magic, from the unseen, from the universal, and it seems to be, predicated on our internal growth. The growth of the individual, their willingness to expand and elevate and remove shadows and such. And are you in your transmissions? Do you get clear evidence of that? Maybe more than other people do.
Could you rephrase that question, please?
I'm sorry. Do you see clear evidence of what we couldn't see before? Let's say where we're starting to get a reciprocation of, say, superabundance, of fairness, of equality, that's really starting to materialize and cooperate with us as we change this realm.
Yes, indeed. It's apparent on so many levels. I tend to look myself at it from a higher level and an overview of everything that's happening on the planet. But yes, it's there on so many levels with individuals and with groups and, planet wise. And there are so many integral factors with this on so many levels, with the individual again and with groups and, planet wide, what is happening.
Yeah.
And it is there's to look. There will be nowheres that you can look that you will not see the signs.
Yeah.
You just have to have the open mind and a raised, let's say, raised consciousness to some level. But what has happened now, where we're on, let's say, higher timelines, it's pretty blatant for anyone to see. So it is pretty easy now. Anywhere they wish to look, they will find evidence. But if they don't wish to find evidence, they won't as well. So it's very interesting what's happening, and there are divine mechanisms in place that the ones that are going along with the ride now, and let's say are not fully informed of what's happening. Well, that's part of their soul journey. They're not to know certain things, and there are others that, are privy to many special things, and it does not matter how much you try. There is always an hierarchy, and I call it hierarchy. You may call it hierarchy, but there is a divine there is. And, simply just look at yourself. If there wasn't, you'd be up there perhaps where God is at right now. So, the moment that you recognize that there is a higher power, that is the moment that you and anyone brings that hierarchy into place. And there is a divine hierarchy, and there are many levels of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the information you get is very unique, okay? And it's also very broad. What is your day like? Do you spend all of your time in solitude, working with Mother Earth? Communing? Is this what you do all the time?
Let's say no. I play a large human role as well. Act with many individuals. I trigger many individuals. I am, let's say, an overseer of this ascension, and but I get my hands full of grease. I get right in there. I do everything. I play the role as well, because the role is very important in raising others. Many are oblivious to exactly who and what I am, but there are others that know who and what I am, and it's a very special role here on the planet, and it's so beautiful and it's exciting, and every day is a that I will the deep soul level, like all of us, everything, how everything plays out. But to there are some things that I have blocked out. For instance, if you have access to know the future of all that. You knew that, you're going to be bored being here. It's not going to be fun, and you're going to want to get out of here. So, veil's still in place for very important reasons. But you are privy to the knowing that you are not restricted to this human physical form, and that at some point we do go and we do move on, to other experiences. And I was very appreciative to see some sort of a scientific paper. I just cannot recall fully what it was, but in that paper, scientist that believes that the consciousness never dies, and they are absolutely correct. It does not. And the biggest part of this ascension, what is happening, is that we're able to take the physical bodies through it.
Right.
This has not been done before on such a large scale. If we look at the figure of Jesus. Yes, he ascended, but not only. Throughout time, many other, let's say, peers, many other divine beings have done it as well. But at those times, there may be one per era. But at this time, we have many. And, I like to say that 2,000 years ago, there was about, 13 or 14 here at this time. And we must not exclude Mary Magdalene. She was, in fact, right beside Jesus. If you look at the apostles, actually, Mary assisted in teaching those. So let's look at about 14 that was here, in 2,000 years ago. And you compare that to today, which the last figure I was divinely given was we have close to 3 million now with the same Christ abilities and that Christ consciousness. Those are the ones now on the planet that are activated that have these abilities. Because as we keep rising in vibration and frequency and different timelines and dimensions, the way that energy works changes. And I could go on and on about that, and I wish to just keep it simple. But the main thing is there are about 3 million of us here now compared to about 2,000 years ago.
Wow. And do you see I get a little echo. Do you see the collective ascending, without the physical death in this transition? Because there's a lot of different people talk about there's 3 Earths, and some people are going to go here and some people are going to go there. Do you see this as an opportunity for the universe to actually transcend from this lower dimension, so to speak, to a higher dimension without going through physical death as a collective?
Yes, totally. And there is an individuality with this ascension as well. There are several ways that you will leave these lower timelines. A death is only a perception. It's not what really happens, meaning that, you may appear you have died here and leave a physical body behind on a 4D timeline. But let's say, Todd, you've got a physical body, you're up on the 5D timeline, you're allowed to retain the knowledge of, that you left behind a body, and you're entering your new experiences, but you're able to retain the memory. Yeah. Before that was blocked. So, some will just disappear, vanish. Some may be picked up by what you call a UFO, but they're all real things. Some can just walk through dimensional doorways and portals. These are all very real. My recent message I put out the other night is that, everyone wants to go. I was supposed to be gone last December, but apparently with this soul contract thing, I decided to stay to assist more. And it's funny when I won't go into that part, but nevertheless, the last message I was given is that more are making the choice to ascend at this time. So we are more or less needed here, so we are all staying in one form or another. Now, let's say if there's 40 of us that are to stay, just for simplicity's sake, use the 40 number. Yeah. Let's say there's 40 to stay on the planet. Let's say that to the others, one of those, it appeared they died. Yeah. So do not go with the perception that there's only 39, because that one that appeared that they died, they are not gone. They are still here in energy form and have full access, the same as the others. And that's very important to keep that in mind as we go forward. Good point. That's a really good point. And on that note, let me ask you, what is... on a personal level, what is your mission here? What do you see your mission as? My mission is to oversee this whole planetary ascension and to take everyone that has to go and what humans thought were possible, and we are doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you this too: how important, or let me put it a different way. What is the most important thing somebody who's willing to expand and grow and elevate? What is the most important thing that they can do if we break it down just to a onesie twosie level, and break it down to a human level? What can we do consciously every day that will help us to expand and elevate?
Most importantly is the virtue. If you look at, what you've been given is tidbits of um, knowledge. You've been given pieces of the puzzle all through the years. If one thing, they speak about the judgment days. So right now, we are amidst of those judgment days since 2012 or 2011. But these judgment days, you're not judged by God. You judge yourself by your actions. And the most important is to practice all the virtues to the utmost, because when you do that, you start to raise your vibration, you raise your consciousness, and you start to trigger and activate more of your divine gifts. So it's very important with that. Also, I must say, it's very important with these physical human bodies to keep a considerable amount of water in your diet, good water every day, and, cut down on your chemicals in your foods. The cigarettes that you smoke, keep them as natural as you can. But
I'm glad you said that.
Follow your knowledge, or follow what you're given, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right to smoke, don't smoke, right? But, if it does, smoke. I smoke a few cigarettes, but I know the importance of keeping the chemicals out of your body. So watch your food, watch your water, and everything. But very simply, like before I smoke the cigarette, I can exert a certain amount of energy on it, blessing it, and saying it will have no effect. So I'm using my mental energy and I'm using my manifestation abilities. But the last thing we don't want is people continuously exerting their energy, blessing the foods that they eat, and the cigarettes and all of this, when energy is very important and it can be directed in other places with the intent for the good of all.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's been more and more discussion, experiences, and I love what you said, by the way, of the Judgment Day, because it's not about the explanation you give, it's about what you do. Let me just give you props for that. But there's been more and more discussion about what I would call higher aspect visitation, extraterrestrial visitation. People are starting to come out with that more. We're doing whatever we can to get that word out there. What do you see occurring with that? Do you think this is going to become more and more visible, where we literally have, say, a higher dimensions and our dimension integrating to the point where people just can't say that's not happening, that's going on?
Well, indeed, you're going to see this transition. For those ascending, they are going to have, these sort of experiences because it is part of 5D and above. And let me say that planet Earth here, Gaia, that it was 123 years ago, the technology was here and things were in place to allow for let's say, an alien contact to happen around the 1940s. Yeah. And I'm going to be blunt, that did not occur, and this is part of the reason I am here now with this. But these, let's say, these first contacts and all of these things, no, they're not the first contacts. We are part of that, and they are part of other dimensions that we've been part of. You're visited. Some of you are visited by alien beings, by light beings, but they are all us from different times and different spaces. And, we are able to access those dimensions now. You access them in the dream state, but as the vibration raises, you're able to access them while you're perfectly awake. And you'll have experiences, alien experiences, if you wish to call them that.
Which are really higher or other aspects of ourselves. That's what you're saying.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I lost you for a bit.
So, and which are actually higher aspects or other multidimensional aspects of ourselves, is what you're saying.
Yeah, all apply. Yeah, it depends on the situation. It depends on the individual, where they're at, what they're met by, what they're greeted with, what energy it is. It could be their higher self. It could be a future self. There are no restrictions when you go to the energy form and level. There are no space, no time restrictions,
Right.
and this is one of the important things when they speak about the now. That is very important.
Yeah.
And so it is, but it's all real. It's all true. Yes.
And I guess the other side of that is a lot of people, especially in these light worker circles, where people have been doing the work and they're trying to make this jump into the 5D, which includes their relationships and also includes their vocation or how they earn money. So the other side of that being, and I don't know, what's your perspective on how do we make that jump? We know it's there. We're experiencing certain things. We're in touch. We're aligned in an escalating pattern. How do we take that on full fold? How do we make the magic occur? How do we bring this heaven to earth?
Well, it's a process, as everyone knows, and you can think or believe that it's challenging, and that will start to restrict you and hinder you. Or you can say, no, I got this. I go with the flow. Then that opens you up, and you excel forward very rapidly, because then you're open to the energy. See, there's a very tricky thing, and the tricky thing is your thoughts and your belief. Those are restrictions. Once you come to believe that everything is possible, then you open every door. Then you're more readily to receive more of the higher truths. And you don't, and fear is the biggest thing to let go of, because fear does restrict you. It clouds judgment. It clouds, every part of you. It is a disempowering thing to have that. And it's so easy for me to say, just get rid of absolutely all fear. And again, that is a process, but everyone can do it that is supposed to do it at this time.
Right on. I've always had this curiosity because I've done a lot of research. I don't do so much anymore, but I try to keep up on what's going on and see if I can see on the global stage, is there evidence, even though we're restricted from what we can see unless you're looking at the alt news. How many people do you think are in the establishment, be they religious institutions or state institutions, that are woke up?
I believe if you had the actual numbers, everyone would be surprised at how many are in there that are awakened, but they still have the fear aspect of uncertainty to come forward to break through. What we have in these establishments, even in the Catholic Church, the Vatican, is we have many divine ones in there. A lot of them have evidence and documentation. They're coming forward. You may wish to call in other organizations whistleblowers. These are all divine ones, that are coming forward and helping with this transition. But the biggest thing is what is here on earth now, society as it is, the governmental controls. That is all imploding and breaking down because it's foundationed on fear. It is not truth. And when anyone has to be other, like the Queen, Canadians are supposedly servants of the Queen. But I mean, take the Queen standing beside you. What difference is there? There is none. He has no another human being, as you don't have the right to control another.
Right.
There is that equality that will be established, but the biggest problem was with the governments and society, where it went, the programs, the conditioning to keep everyone subservient. That's being all broken, and just so much evidence that it is.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems that there is an increasing frequency or vibration of truth. As truth is love, is freedom, sovereignty. That won't allow, whether it be an institution or an individual or a relationship, won't allow anything but pure love and truth to stand. Does that resonate with you?
Totally, you're absolutely correct, Todd. And there's some of these amazing individuals, that I have connected with in the past, and yes, they're above that. They stand in their truth and their divine truth, and let's say they are untouchable when they do. They may experience some little things from outside source government, but when they do, they quickly recognize it's something that they need to know for the future. So nothing is bad. When this happens, it gives you more knowledge that you need to know for what's going to happen in the future. Bad is only a perception. With us, the light worker community, there is no bad. You are fully divinely protected, and you go forward with that in realizing that you only take value from everything.
Yeah, that's right. Now, a lot of people talk about the big event, the big event's coming, and there's been a lot of talk about this year, December's Jubilee. What are your thoughts on a singular event or a moment where everything flips into truth, or however you want to describe it? Or do you think it's an ongoing, that's more of a perception and an ongoing thing? The event is occurring all the time. What do you think it is?
Well, it's both. If you want to look at the big event, it's the overall ascension, that's been ramped up since 2011, 2012. So we are amidst the big event, but also within the big event, there are other big events that occur as well. And, with some of these timeline shifts that, some have had the liberty to experience, for instance, they walk into other dimensions and timelines. For an example, your landscape. Let's say that you lived in a very remote area. That, let's say, it was a mile from your place to the neighbors, and if you make an incredible shift to be shown, more of what is actually real, you could leave your driveway in the morning and drive to that neighbor's house that was a mile away, but you suddenly find out that there's 5 or 6 more houses there. So you're in another timeline, different. But these things also occur to get your attention, let you more believe in what's happening. So it's very cool, and the experiences and the different types, there really is, they're unlimited what can occur, but they're all very real and very true.
Yeah, everything's relevant, everything's real. Yeah,
indeed, you're being introduced to so many new things, and as you said earlier, so many more also are coming forward and opening up. And this is also very important because, you know, it pertains to the unity. And when you open up, you know, about these profound experiences, because society, and let's go to the dark ones for a minute, uh, you know, they tried to keep everything suppressed, and there was the dark angels, and again, that's part of the reason I'm here, and many of you is, you know, the let's say if there was a war in heaven, that was won in 2011, 2012. And, you know, we're here setting things straight. We're catching the planet up on where they should be in conjunction with the rest of the known universes, and also in time and space. So very rapidly, what we're doing in the matter of several years, it was, let's say, there was a 40-year program to do that, but very rapidly we got it all squashed up and so quickly in that length of time.
Yeah, that's right. We need to, and I say that on my shows. You know, I think we need to. It's time we give ourselves a little credit. You know, we've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work.
Indeed, Todd. You know, it's just so amazing. There's times, you know, that tears come in my eyes when you know, I assist, you know, many, you know, a lot online, but individually. And when they step into their prowess and, you know, start creating their own magic and to really know it in their heart that it's real, you know, that is the most amazing eureka moment for them. And they just propel forward because what they do is they eradicate any doubt at that time. And doubt is a fear aspect again that will hold you back, and it will create veils. And this is why it's so important. Every veil that is in your consciousness is there because of any fear aspect. And fear encompasses literally all the negative actions and thoughts. So once you eliminate those, you are actually pure. And you connect to others, you connect directly to God, to source, and you know, your prowess then is, let's say, it's it's beyond human imagination what it was.
It's supernatural. It's supernatural. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you. Yeah.
Now there seems to be since this blood moon eclipse on the 27th of July. And of course, this whole year has seemed to be very accelerated from the get-go. But since the blood moon, there just seems to be some incredible things happening, including collaboration energies. Of course, the opposites too. You know, everything seems to be getting louder and louder and louder. But in terms of unity, as you were talking about, in terms of community, do you see this picking up as it has seemed to be picking up over the last few weeks, where people are coming together, soul tribes uniting, that type of thing?
Let's say that I didn't see it, but I can feel it because it's an ongoing thing, and I know it is so. And yes, I agree. I wish to say that, you know, amongst all of the divine ones that know they are divine, you know they are here for a purpose. Amongst these ones, there are individuals doing their own thing. There are groups doing their own thing. And, you know, they all have individual tasks, but there is the point where they converge, and we are starting to converge now, and it is the unity. Yes.
Yeah.
When you have all of these groups and individuals that have, you know, more or less done the work within themselves, have retained the memory that they need. When you have a group such as that together, you are very powerful, and you change reality almost instantly, and you create many new things very rapidly. So this ascension is speeding up, and that is why I say we squashed everything in a few years, because of the prowess that was divinely given to individuals here, and there are time to dim lines for humanity in the future. So again, it's a very powerful. Oh, and we did these couple exercises, Todd. You looked at the rain one we did, but the one we did with Irma last year, just an incredible show of divine strength when, the small groups work in unison, their capability. But I mean, if you quickly just want to go for a smaller example of that, let's say 10 years ago, you could look at some videos of studies, where perhaps they were working with some people's gifts. And I'll bring up this one. I believe there's a YouTube you may be able to find that they had maybe a dozen people in a room and a spoon, and they actually mind, but you're only looking at a dozen people. But if you look at that, it shows you the power of the mentality of the mind as well. So that's an introduction, to also to what we're capable of.
Yeah. Conscious intention, especially unified conscious intention. What do you think what's your perspective or observation of what's going on with this obvious reemergence? You brought up Magdalene a while ago, of the divine feminine frequency to the realm. There seems to be a handoff taking place, at least in the light workers circles, beginning to take place, where that wisdom, love, and courage and such is stepping to the forefront. Of course, on the other side of it, you've got a masculine that's being, for all intents and purposes, demasculated. But what do you see the role is of the divine feminine energy in the collective as we go through this transition?
Well, very simply and frankly, the divine feminine were the most important and still are at this time. And that's because if we look at the human maternal instinct of unconditional love, a female will have it because of childbearing. Some males have it, but because of instinctual acts, they feel they have to be the protector. And when you look at protector, that means they may have to be aggressive, but it means they have more fear. Yeah. So you can see very quickly how the feminine has charged with this, which they are doing. And, if you want to look at, I can throw some numbers out there, but I will. I always speak the truth. Still, it's probably 75% awakened females to 25% males, and there needs to be a balance. Every time we're ready to go forward with this, the females have increased their power, their inner knowing, and they trust their intuition. The old adage, a woman's intuition is very powerful. And that's very important. But with the males, it takes a little bit longer with them. And you have to integrate that unconditional love. And I know all about that because, before I was awakened, I was, let's say, sort of hypocritical. I had to, because I had to see, the shadows, the reverse. And I had to have a good manuscript that I could compare to this now, so that you could identify the problems, and also, for my work to assist males in coming forward. And the biggest thing is, with the males, just go right to love. Have no fear whatsoever, have no care. Get to that love state and know that there's something more going. And, that propels them forward pretty quickly. And I have run across, some amazing males as well. but the females lead the charge.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've been watching the metrics in SoulG for 7 years. And when I started, it was about 78, 79% female. And and then it was stuck around what you're talking about 75, 25. And this year since January, I just checked a couple of days ago, it was at 65, 35. So I think that's a good sign. I think, and I'm seeing it too in the work I do. I'm seeing more and more men who are, at peace, are equalized or whatever you want to call it with the feminine energy, starting to step up. And I think again, something you said earlier about speaking up. More and more people are speaking up about what their experience is, what their knowledge is, and such. And obviously, women have been doing that for quite some time. As you said, they were leading the way, but men like you, are getting out there and doing it. The more of them that do it, seems to be activating more and more people. So I think we're making some progress.
Immense progress. Yeah, indeed. And that ego thing, I love that. There's a very good lady friend of mine said, Rick, there is good ego. We'll keep that intact, because ego, I guess, when you look at it, that it's sort of what you are to propel you forward, then you've got to keep, some of that good ego. It's the bad ego, the fear-based ego that's all got to go with that. So she made a very excellent point on that, and that in the past, and I've had the opportunity just to share that now with so many more, and perhaps it will clarify. Part of an ego is what you are. You need to keep the good ego intact, and stand in your truth and have no fear. Without an ego, a good ego, well, you may be one of the most powerful divine ones, but you may just stay in your house all by yourself all day, not assisting with this ascension. So you need something to keep you going forward, to keep it simple.
Yeah. And what about these kids coming in? People talk about the crystal children.
The children, absolutely amazing. And yes, these are the nations. They are well prepared. Many are just totally gifted with your ESP. Go with all of that, all the phenomenal magical powers. A lot of these children have it coming in, and yes, they are the generations for the new civilizations, for the new timelines, and this is why they are very advanced. And I must say, that it's very appreciable for me to see that so many will not, let's say, comply with the present school system, and it's because it's outdated. They already know that everything they're taught in there is mostly false, and this is very indicative of these very intelligent children that are coming here. They're placed here, the society, out of this the school system, and we're transitioning into the new. So it's part of the transition. Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting proposition because it looks like we can learn more from them than they can learn from us.
Well, that indeed, when they understand their gifts, because they're practicing and experimenting with their gifts on their own time, and some parents could be totally amazed what their children could do, but they know the dynamics and the fundamentals of how their gifts work to certain degrees. And what they don't know, in divine timing, as we keep incrementally going forward, they are given the education and the knowledge they need to develop their guidance with the overall divine plan and their collective as well. So they will be a collective on their own when we leave.
Yeah. A lot of people that I see out there, and I think maybe we've all been there, is they look at people such as yourself, and they say, "Wow, man, am I ever going to get there?" Or he or she's different than me. what advice would you give to anyone in terms of connecting to their higher aspects, to God, to Source? Is there a basic method beyond meditation, or something that you could help people with as a suggestion?
Well, the first thing is to follow the signs and to know that nothing that happens here is really random. There are no coincidences. That if you're interested, let's say a child all of a sudden becomes interested in God, well, that is very indicative of the path that they will lead. And it's their introduction to that. So, over a course of a process, they are they ingrain more knowledge of that to build it, because they're being trained, if you will, for their purpose there. And they will play a role as well. It's something like a double agent, if you will. On one side you're just a human playing a role, but on the other side, you have vast knowledge. You know how everything works. You have a mission, and you have to integrate and apply it into the role.
Yeah.
And it is done. There are no mistakes.
Yeah.
Everything is divinely orchestrated.
Yeah. Everything we see is speaking to us. I mean, the universe is speaking, or we're speaking to ourselves with everything we're experiencing. Yeah, fascinating.
Exactly. There's signs and messages in everything, and it depends on the perspective, the level of consciousness to identify those. And it's set up sort of that way because there are souls that are not supposed to see those signs, and there's are other souls that it's time for them to advance, so they will see signs everywhere. And that is the way. And you'll have, for instance, the odd time you'll see what they call internet trolls. Some of these fear-based ones will, they'll come in there. They don't see it, but they're not supposed to see it. They're not going where we go. So I suggest for anyone, that has trouble with internet trolls or whatever, you pay them no heed and just understand that they're not supposed to know the truth. That's why they are, let's say, ignorant in the manner that they are. Ignorant meaning that they do not have the knowledge, and they're not supposed to have it.
Yeah.
So don't judge them, as being ignorant in this. Just understand that they're at that level, and don't exert any of your energy, in those areas. You want your energy attuned and focused to empowering yourself and doing all the good.
Yeah.
So you do not need to face anyone fighting or any of these negative things. You don't need to do it unless you receive a very compelling message from higher up that you must address an issue in a certain way. But understand that it's always for forward movement. There is no going backwards.
And I guess that would apply to the focus of our attention, whether it be in our family circle, friendships, work, place environment, or even the global stage, taking on, like you were talking about earlier, in terms of the energy of food we ingest. I mean, at some point, we don't want to be using our energy for that. We could be using it for something to serve the collective on a higher, level. So I guess it would apply. Now you get a lot of intel, obviously, and one of the things I've noticed over the last few months, especially the last few weeks, is several of the people, such as yourself, more and more of them are starting to have the same intel. May look a little bit different, but it's pretty much saying the same thing. What do you see happening, if you know at all? I mean, through the rest of this year, we've had a powerful 7 or 8 months. We don't have any more eclipses. The Lion's Gate's gone. I'm sure there's some other stuff coming up, but I'm not that good with the planetary and all that. What do you see the rest of this year looking like?
always forward. And, we can take these leaps and bounds, and you do not need eclipses or planetary beliefs to take you there. What you need is the belief, that this is happening, the belief in yourself, the inner knowing, connect with that. And this is what makes the shifts. Really, you can look at the eclipse. It is an energetic time, and it's an energetic time because so many believe that it is. But what I'm saying is that you don't need to believe in the eclipse and what it may do. You merely need to believe in what you can do.
Yeah.
And that will propel you forward. You don't need important dates like, Lion's Gate and, the 22nd of December and these things. You don't really need them. Some need them because it advances them forward. But once you reach such a level, you will find that you don't need that to push everything forward. You're able to create your reality, and you don't have to wait for an eclipse to do that. Believe in yourself, believe in the collective, the unity, and the connection to God, and remain in the fullest virtue that you can. And you'll get your own confirmations, and you'll see that it is true.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, the collective belief, we're driving this thing. I mean,
Exactly.
you talked about us doing, as an example, 40 years of work in this 7 or 8 year period. Well, we made that happen. That's what you're saying. We had the wherewithal. We were ready and prepared to do that. And that's why it's happening.
We did, Todd. And, in preparation for this time on this timeline through the years, 20 back in the 80s, 70s, let's go, late 60s, 70s, with the, what we call the hippie movement and everything, that happened in the U.S., love and peace. There's been many put here before to, in the histories, to add very important points that could be reflected back on, but the stage has been set. So we're strong here in this now. But if you look back, let's say even 10 years ago, look at the light community. It was something that was more or less unknown. There was very few, but look how rapidly it's growing. But again, they were the pioneers, and they give so much valuable information for the others to build on at this time. So, we're all connected, and it's all a unity, and it is very great. It is.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a heck of a conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So let me ask you a question. What's next for Rick? Where are you headed? What are you up to?
Well, my role, what I have to do here is, a lot of my memory is blocked, but I am privy to, a lot of things. So what I do is, more or less just go with the flow and told where I'm to go by the head honcho. And, I'm fine with that. And, I don't, while I'm here, I don't want to know how everything plays out because, even though I'm having fun and it's very exciting, I get bored, by times. And so I don't really, even though I have the total script downloaded within this consciousness, every possible timeline, but the one where we're going. And I'm just being open. I know what's going to happen, but I don't retrieve and I don't draw on that data. We like to keep the surprise thing in there to keep some flair, some excitement in it again. And that's so very important. If you knew everything that's going to happen, like Todd, what's the use of being here, right?
Exactly. What's the point? What's the point?
But one thing I can say, that everything that does happen is perfect and beautiful, and there's no reason, to fear anything. And
right on.
And the biggest thing, death is only a perception. It's a human perception that was put in place, to secure the human experience. That's not what really happens.
Yeah. which wasn't really something that was put together by some faction in the 1%. This is all in a perfect design. We all had a part of that.
Agreed. Yeah. At the end of the day, if we look at the dark angels, and all of this, there's the one head honcho, the omnipotent, and he can pull the plug on anything at any time, meaning that there is no reason to fear any demons, any dark angels, or anything. Once you connect with the head honcho, then there is no fear, and there is nothing to fear.
That's right.
And you go forward with that. Many of the demons, I come across this quite a bit because I have to assist others with those. A lot of these demons are, let's say, put there for training purposes, of very important ones. So they're subjugated or subjected, to these demonic experiences, to trigger the fear aspects and many other things. And then they progress understanding the experience, like how fear was triggered. I'm going to jump a lot of steps. So fear was triggered. They're very afraid. Then later on, it comes a time they begin to understand, and they get the knowledge that they can overpower it. Then it comes the time that they're above it, and they know what it was, and know that any, let's say, ill intent energy, that they can quickly dissipate, or it will not even exist around them. Once the training purposes are taken out of there, they're untouchable.
Yeah,
I left a lot of steps out, but I try to keep it short.
At the end of the day, we're sovereign and free, and the only thing holding us back is our belief that we're not, or something has control over us beyond.
Exactly. That's true. The simplest thing is surrender to God, and that gets you on your way. Yeah.
Right on.
Once you do that, most know that there is a higher power. All of the light workers know that, that there is a higher power. Once you know that, surrender to it. God is not evil. God does not spread wrath. There is none of that. That is in belief, and it was put there, and many things were manipulated, in Bibles, in religions through time. The best thing is, I suggest for everyone, just keep open, believe in what you get. Do not believe in what others say unless it resonates with you. And my viewers, I have said that. I say I speak openly, but if something does not resonate with you that I say, you must leave that, because that means it's not for you at that time.
Right.
However, that does not mean that, later on it may resonate perfectly with you. But be in the now, what resonates, and follow that is what I suggest.
Yeah. And vice versa. If it resonates now, it may not later. The higher you go,
absolutely.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah, but, exactly. And that is very important you brought that up, because as an individual goes through different levels, different rules apply with the energy. And you're exactly correct that you cannot use what you thought you knew before. You've got to be ever changing. You're absolutely correct, and that's so important.
Let me ask you a couple more questions. I'm just curious as to your answer, and for lack of a better way of saying it, is molding energy, I don't want to say creating energy, but transforming energy, can it be put as simple as using our imagination?
Yes,
is it simple as,
in your manifestations, but at this time on the planet, with what's happening, is that, let's say, miraculous things done by people, or very incredible magic, it's kept at a limit. It's governed, and every incident of, let's say, something very miraculous has to be approved by a divine council, because you must understand, let's say, if we had one like Jesus walking across the water, and let's say that the mainstream media's all picked that up and put it on, that changes everything on these timelines and on the planet. So there is a divine plan. Everything is in accordance with that divine plan. All of you are capable of creating and manifesting white magic. And there is no limits to, more or less, to what you can create with your experiences and what you can manifest. There are very few restrictions on that, but what does restrict that is the overall divine plan and your being on these timelines. There are certain things we are not allowed to do here, and that there are certain things we cannot change so very quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And the last thing too, that and I love your humility. I mean, you obviously you're very connected, and you're so down to earth. We spent so much time hung up on our stories from the past, and then I see in a lot of people getting channelings, transmissions, downloads, and it's a powerful thing to bring in. It's a powerful challenge to the ego and to the human. But it seems like we're getting to a space now where those are no different than the stories behind us. That the important thing is, as you say, in the now, we are important. Our consciousness here is important, or why would we be conscious 99% of the time here? And it seems like that's starting to play out. And I find it really interesting because, again, I believe the human is the hero. This is what the whole story is about. But anyway.
Well, yeah. Sorry, Todd.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, you touched on another very important aspect here, and that's about detaching from your past and your experiences. Your human experiences here, like with your relationships with your family or whatever, it's best to be able to detach from those memories, because if you must, this is very important, you must remember that you are creating also a new reality with others. And the last thing that you would want in your new reality is experiences, what you called bad in the past with relationships. So the thing is, get rid of those, as the best you can out of your memory so that you're clear to go forward. So get rid of these old attachments and memories, because we are going where, let's say that, the humanity has not been before. And to do that, where you're creating and manifesting with your mind, you must keep open to the now and the new and get those other memories out of there. Because if you don't, you're going to be attached to those old memories, old experiences, and you're going to see them start surface. You're going to see them in your future, and they will keep popping up until you know the trick that, you took all the value, you learned from those. They are no longer required. Just detach from them, free yourself from them so that you can go forward.
Yeah, right on. Well, Rick, I really appreciate it. It's been an honor having you here. I know everyone out there appreciates it. You are a dedicated light worker, way shower. And again, I just want to say thank you for your service to humanity. And thank you for honoring us with your presence tonight and sharing space with us.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. And it's been my pleasure to be on here, to speak with the others. And many new things are coming up. And as always, it's it's going to be very fun. And, everyone just keep happy, keep going forward. You get your own confirmations, your own signs, it's happening. And it is very amazing. And, do your inner work. I suggest to all, as quick as you can, and keep going forward and have fun with it, though. Don't.
Yeah.
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 So that's cool. So I thank you so much, brother. And, you know, I love you, and what you're doing is so important, and I love all. And it's so amazing to see this happening.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
great.
I'd love to get together with you again sometime. You
Yeah,
take
yeah.
you
See
take
what the
care.
future holds
Yeah.
there.
And you know how I prefer to operate. So if it's 10 o'clock at night and you say you want to do something in a couple hours, I'm good.
Yeah, you know, that's the way it worked tonight, and that's divine timing. You know, everything is perfect, and such an amazing, uh, you know, show with this, and your questions were just so valuable, and I just loved them. You know, you asked exactly the right questions for me, and it was beautiful. You know, I was able to elaborate and put that out, so it was amazing. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it too, brother. You take care. Peace out. Be safe out there. I know you will be, because I know you got it under control. You take care. I'll talk to you again soon. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.